Welcome, fellow Biafrans, lovers of freedom across the world. I welcome you to this very platform once again. Thank you so much for being part of this platform. I appreciate everyone that is contributing in one way or the other to support this very platform. I thank you so much. We have come once again to preach the gospel of Biafra the way we have always done. Remember, in this very platform, we don't come here to instigate violence. We do not come here to preach hate. All we do here is preach the gospel of peace, the gospel of freedom, to bring the plight of the Biafran people before the whole world and to debunk every lie that the contraption called Nigeria have been telling against the Biafran people. That is what we are about to do now. Wonderful Biafrans, as you all know, the journey of freedom is still continuing in this era under the Biafra Republic government in exile on the command of our Prime Minister, Mazi Simon Ekpa. He is doing everything humanly possible to see that Biafra becomes free. Pay attention to this short clip. You will understand that all is not well. And the only way for you, as an indigenous person in that country called Nigeria, is to fight for your own freedom. If you're a Biafra, join the Biafra movement. If you're an Udua, join the Udua people. If you're from Arewa, fight for your Arewa. If you're from the Middle Belt, join the Middle Belt movement. That is the only solution. I want you to watch this clip from beginning to end. You'll be glad you did. Let's watch.
Thank you for having me, Mr. Christian. First and foremost, I want to use this opportunity to thank, I think, the Prime Minister of the Biafran in exile, that's Simon Ekpa. I saw the video on his timeline where he said that this guy is from the Yoruba, extraction, and they will release him just to show again that the Igbos are not enemies to the Yorubas. However, they are against every tribe that works with the Nigerian army, that are doing everything possible to annihilate their own people fighting for their own liberation. I think that's a kind and it's a way to go. However, it's a shame on the Nigerian army, and it's an indictment that the Biafran Liberation Army are defeating the Nigerian army on all fronts and ground. In fact, there is a response to that from the Nigerian army, and I can see that the Nigerian army are also seeking the international bodies, they are seeking the assistance of the international bodies in every way, to repatriate Ekpa back home. But you see, I think the one thing is Biafra has gotten one thing right. They've learned from the mistake of the past. And this time, I think they are standing on a solid foundation with the support of Simon Ekpa, who is dismantling every formation of the Nigerian army in the southeast. Don't forget, it was the Nigerian army that took the battle to them. And in fact, they call it, this is a war, an asymmetric war. I could recall, that was a statement of the Chief of Defense Staff. But as it were today, over 6 months later, the Nigerian army are the one crying wolf, seeking for assistance, international help and all that. It's an indictment, and I think for me, my happiest moment was when I saw that guy. Though he was being beaten, his face was battered.
But before he was captured, he was in a fierce confrontation. Possibly he could have sustained such injury before he was finally captured.
Well, be that it may, I'm just happy that the man has his life intact, because just a trigger, just one squeeze of the trigger, the guy is gone. He's gone. So, to my fellow Yorubas, I think we should not continue to buy that story that Igbos are the enemies. I think the enemies are the bad people in governance. If we are going to look at who is the president of Nigeria today, it's a Yoruba man. He's a man who has not shown empathy even to his own fellow tribes people. It is a man who doesn't even give a damn about the flood happening in Maiduguri. All what it's about is re-election come 2007. He's doing everything possible, erecting his own political, stalwarts, his machineries. He's doing everything to silence the voice of the people. And of course, when I'm talking about the voice of, I'm talking about the voice of the Igbos, or Biafrans as they like to be called. Just recently we saw that the initiative about the CNG, they call it compressed natural gas, amongst all the states, the Southeast were omitted. If we go to the NEL fund, which is the education loan fund, we can see that the Southeast have not benefited significantly. So it's very, very disturbing that this is a land that provides gas. This is a land that is rich in gas and oil. Look at Imo, look at Abia. And then if you look at all the southern states that happens to be a part of the Biafra struggle, these are the states that are well rich in these oil resources. And of course, the government keeps on ignoring them. So of course, I mean, these guys are justified if they say they want to succeed. Because if they get what it is needed to be gotten from a working system, I don't think the Igbos will want to succeed. In fact, they will be the major advocates of Nigerians because they happen to be the most traveled. Internally, they happen to be the most traveled. The Yorubas hardly travel around. They stay within their, but the Igbos, they travel, they go for trading. So they happen to always demonstrate the oneness that we are actually, counting. But of course, it is unfortunate that the Nigerian Federation has always marginalized them. I'm very happy that this guy, his family, I'm sure he would have reunited with his family now. The Corporal Toriola would have united with his family, and I am sure he'll be praying for Simon Ekpa wherever he is. And I mean, going forward, if you are a Yoruba man and you have been sent to an Igbo land, I will advise you to leave that duty for the Fulanis, or the Hausas. Please, we are having issues back home here in Southwest. You can see what the Fulanis are doing for our mothers and sisters in Ondo State. Please, if you are a Yoruba soldier, tell them that you don't want to go to Igbo land. The Igbos are not having any issue. We are the one now having issues. The Fulanis look at, those guys have creeped into our forest.
Exactly.
If you go to Ogun State Forest, now all the Ogun State Forest, the Amu Resort, almost everywhere in Oyo State, in Ondo State, these Fulanis are there. They are building their camps, taking over people's lands, unabated, just because they are not yet, there's no yet much noise. So the Nigerian Yoruba armies should please come back home and protect us. That is what we need. Because as it were, if the Biafran ever succeed today, let me tell you, the Yoruba land will be the prey in the hands of the predative Hausa Fulanis if care is not taken. And then on a last note, I want to appreciate Simon Ekpa again for his kindness, and just by adventure, they find more Yoruba army in the Igbo land. I want to beg in advance, please don't kill them. Send them back home, just like you did with Toriola. Thank you very much.
Mr. Shegun, there are some quotas of the opinion that the later from the Nigerian army to international bodies is more like a way to stop Simon Ekpa from going on with the November 29th conference or convention which he organizes in Finland. Remember, he made mention of 50 million people voting in referendum for Biafra or for IPOB. You also share that line of thought.
I don't necessarily think so. I think that the Simon Ekpa issue is a long-standing one, and I'm not sure that the call from the Nigerian army is necessarily targeted at a particular event that is coming up. I think it's probably more them. In my opinion, I think they're even playing to the gallery to an extent. I haven't particularly taken their call seriously for one simple reason. The Nigerian army is notorious with its human rights records, in those theaters where they have been in operations trying to combat whatever forces, they might feel that they are legitimately combating. Legitimately so. But in the process of defending the territorial integrity of your country, there are rules and conventions all over the world with regards to how you treat even enemy combatants. And the Nigerian army has not been particularly, they've not painted themselves in glory.
So you think that their notoriety in how they carry out their operations is going to, deter the international organization from listening to their calls or their...
Yeah, I think that their call will be taken with a pinch of salt. It almost seems as like a bit of sarcasm to me, everybody. So to put it in common parlance, hey, Shebi, every time you people are carrying us to ICC and carrying us to Amnesty International, now we too want to go to ICC and Amnesty International. It looks that way to me, because, in my view, yes, the way the gentleman was treated was absolutely abominable and must be condemned. I think that the Nigerian army are well equipped to go in and retrieve him and do whatever they need to do while staying within the ambits of the law. You know, so they don't have too much of my sympathy. To be
But we're
honest.
having a double way in this story. The Nigerian army of the opinion that this man served, that the man is still in service. Now, is it that the Nigerian army don't really know the man's status?
No, I mean,
or are we having a discrepancy now to determine his own idea?
We have to go with the official statement from the Nigerian army. Nobody will know who works for the Nigerian army more than the Nigerian army themselves. So,
82 division, something happened in 82 division last some months ago, where a man, killed a woman allegedly. Though the Nigerian army were like they are looking into that. It happened there in 82 division. The Nigerian army of the opinion that the man who did that, it's not or was not recruited from the Joint Task Force, and they said he's not a repentant Boko Haram member. Whereas we have other information out there on the social media platform showing that this man was recruited from the Joint Task Force as a repentant Boko Haram member. So do you also think that we're seeing a clear notion of all the stories happening?
Well, it's. I guess we would have to take that as a separate case, and maybe that would call to question the integrity of the information that comes out of the Nigerian. And we do know, we've seen in the past that, again, they've not necessarily painted themselves in glory when it comes to even disseminating factual information about things that are going on. I remember the very unfortunate incident in 2020 where we all saw live videos. I saw live transmission, Instagram live feed, where bullets were being removed from people's legs. And then the Nigerian army came out in an official statement and said it was, what do they call it, doctored or something like that. That was a bit ridiculous. So they have a checkered history. And for me, it's the reason I'm a bit unsympathetic towards whatever they're saying now. I think the guy that is being maltreated by IPOB, if that is the case, should be rescued, and they should deal with them with the full force of the law and the might that they have, the might of the state, and that's not about that. Why are they going to the ICC?
Okay.
I don't understand that at all.
Thanks very much. Let me stay with you on this issue. You said something about this case not being isolated. I think it has a broader perspective.
Absolutely.
So in the sense that it should have a broader perspective, do you think that it's some kind of selective justice on the part of the Nigerian army, to take the case of IPOB to the ICC and Amnesty International, the same Amnesty International that has several times called out the Nigerian army against inhuman treatments to civilians. And again, for the fact that the Nigerian army have not been able to take the same case of Boko Haram, bandits and terrorists to the ICC. You recall what happened when Jonathan tried headlong, to decimate the terrorists. And it was like, we are going to ICC because in here, Jerica, you are chief of army staff. You people are killing my people and all of that. So do you think it amounts to selective justice on the part of the Nigerian army to do one thing in this case and do another in another case in the same jurisdiction?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's part of the reason that I'm skeptical towards this, because it's one. I mean, look, that's one single individual. One individual that is maltreated by any unlawful means or whatever is too much. You don't have to get to 2 or 3. So we have to condemn that. But my goodness, I mean, the kidnappings that are happening every day in this country, people taking ransom and then still killing the victims. Where was the Nigerian army and where was the petition to the ICC, when all of these things were happening? For me, honestly, it's ridiculous. I think that sometimes these government officials really do need a bit of reorientation. They have to take citizens a bit more seriously than they do.
Does it speak to the complicity or lack of intentionality on the part of the government in fighting insecurity? Do you think should we think in that direction?
Well, I mean, look, that's a bigger problem. That's a big problem that we are grappling with, and we need answers to. Why are the bandits? Why do they seem so powerful? Why does the problem seem so intractable? Why are we still talking about Boko Haram after almost 20 years? Why do we still have even the IPOB/ESM problem in the Southeast? Why does it appear as though the Nigerian state is unable to address these problems? It's a big problem, So that's the larger question that I think the Nigerian Army should be focusing their energies on, rather than writing letters to the ICC and all of that.
Alright,
All right.
Mr.
Okay. Well, let me come to you now, Mr. Fatunke. Crocodile Tears was held some years back, and there was outcry that civilians were tortured. These people were beaten into gutters. Nigerians complained, but nothing particularly was done in that regard. And here we are, the Nigerian Army. This is not to color or to, give credence to the activities of IPOB, but this is looking at, in comparison with the actions of the Nigerian Army themselves, the Nigerian military in general. They have clamped down on individuals. They have terrorized. Well, I use that word loosely. They have dealt with civilians in ways that, in fact, let's move away from the southeast in particular now. Okwama, not too long ago, something was done to soldiers in that area, and they came hard on the people, drove women and children into the creeks. What do you make of this call? Are they justified?
I'm happy you are bringing it back to base. Talking about the cops. Shegun here, not him alone, the whole world, including yours sincerely, have vehemently chastised the military, whether done deliberately, whether done, self-defense. I come back to where I started. That two wrongs cannot make a right. Okay, the Nigerian military is pretending they are now trying to strike a snail with a sledgehammer. Yeah, I mean, it will be a way. But look, if you go back into history, you may find out that some of this innocuous, almost what you will say is immaterial when you try to compare and contrast, has led to world wars. It took the assassination of one man in Zambia, Bishop Ferdinand, and then we had all the world wars. There are certain things that has connotation, and as much as I don't want to open in a way that is untoward, I will be shirking a responsibility if I sit here and I tell you that even for that one man, be careful. Be careful about the coloration. Adeyemi is a Yoruba man. And before you know what is happening, and if you are not careful, if you do not manage this properly, you know the kind of situation.
Well, nobody has even mentioned where the person is from on this table. And I don't think that was mentioned in the news as well.
It was mentioned.
Well, I
and his name is Adeyemi. All I'm just trying to Toriola. So I mean, if you don't know that it's a Yoruba name, it's another thing. But that's not where I'm going. And you have to be very careful. There are certain things, if you don't manage them well, they will just fail. Now, if you want to put it on balance, and said because the Nigerian army has been doing things wrong and all that, we are condemning that. The Nigerian military has not done a lot of some of the things that they have done. Nobody is going to put that on. But going forward, we need to be extra careful.
Trying to understand
for the life of me, on patriotic ground, and I say that all the time, I'll be the last that will be deliberately wanting to put down my military
now
on account of things like
the military, of course, they're doing a whole lot.
There are many good people in the military, yes. And we should not
let's look at
take them as I mean, if one or two people are doing bad in the military,
let's look at this call for Simon Ekpa.
Yes.
Somebody on this table did point to the fact that yes, there is insurgency in other parts of the country. In the northern parts of the country, we've dealt with Boko Haram, now christened bandits, and a whole lot. Now, names have been given to the Nigerian government. Some of these names reside within the shores of this country, reside within the borders of this country.
Allegedly.
You don't need to write to ICC to get them, to help you get some of these individuals. Why haven't we, in fact, some of these individuals that have continually perpetrated evil to Nigerians are supposedly, in touch with some relevant individuals within government. But we haven't been able to nab them. What exactly is the problem here?
The problem is that we are not governing. And
we are not governing?
Yes, we are not governing. And the latest.
After watching this very video I played, do you still have any doubt in your mind that Nigeria can never survive? My fellow Biafrans, it is either freedom or nothing. May Chukwu Okike Abiyama continue to guide and protect the Biafra Republic in exile, protect our Prime Minister Mazi Simon Ekpa, and protect our Supreme Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. Biafra government, peace, unity, progress, and equity. We move airborne.